What was your name?
Jacob.
Jacob, good to meet you. I'm Kai.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Okay, so I'm in favor of repealing birthright citizenship. I'd replace it with a policy of jus sanguinis, which is to extend the citizenship through the citizenship of the parents. One parent would have to be an American citizen. And I'm in favor of doing a whole bunch of other things, but mostly to bolster national identity and stop some of the issues we have in immigration right now.
So I understand that, but I want to mostly focus the conversation on, like, I think the issue around birthright citizenship is mostly an issue surrounding what does it actually mean to properly be an American? Because where birthright citizenship as an ideal is mostly started from, more so than a policy perspective, the ideal that anybody can come in and they're born, you're an American.
Yes.
And I actually think that ideal is at the root of what it is to be an American, and I want to hear your perspective on, because I've been hearing, like, I heard the argument from J.D. Vance specifically, like, that somebody who was born in the Civil War, like, who had parents who fought, grandparents, not grandparents, who fought in the Civil War, actually are more American than people who actually came here for immigration purposes, or whatever.
What do you think of that?
I think becoming an American is, like, actually a much more complex process than people think it is, but, like, I'll just say my personal family. My grandpa came in a refugee visa, and he,
Where
like...
are you from, by the way?
My grandpa's Iraqi Jew.
Let's go.
Yeah. Thank you. He came in on a refugee visa, and, like, he actually, like, started a small business and, like, actually really integrated, and, like he also voted for Trump last election, and that helps you too.
Okay.
Like, he really integrated into the American way.
So he's a U.S. citizen?
Yeah,
okay.
100%.
He went through the naturalization process?
Yeah, and I understand that. I just think the broader topic of what does it mean to be an American in the modern sense is kind of being changed to where I think a lot of the conservative movement believes it to be somebody, like, if you're actually here for a long time, that's more American than somebody who actually came in through a legalized process.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, I doubt you disagree. It's like motive plays a super important part in it.
Sure.
And people, obviously, like, who voluntarily come to the country versus those who involuntarily come to the country, you know, they might have a difference in perspective as to, you know, the future of the nation. They might feel more stake in it. I think that was, you know, probably Vance's argument. If somebody has had ancestors here since the 1700s, they're more likely to feel a greater sense of responsibility for the country.
I actually disagree with that because I mean, as somebody who had grandparents, like, I don't know, by one generation, I feel fully integrated in this country. Like, even my grandpa, like, he had his old weird customs that he would do at home, but, like, that's just cosmetic at the end of the day. I think those cosmetic differences don't actually really matter.
I would disagree with that. I think that a lot of, and I like the term, actually, I'm going to start saying that, cosmetic. I think a lot of, like, the foreign culture conversation does address simply the cosmetics. Stuff like, you know, maybe what kind of clothes you wear, what kind of music you like to listen to.
Sure.
Even, like, one of the more important ones, obviously, is your language. Like the language spoken at home.
No, sure, I agree with language more so than the other ones, but
Perfect.
yeah.
I agree. The issue is that almost never, when people talk about culture, do they address, like, lower parts of the cultural iceberg. Things like their perceptions and their preferences, and these are things that go so unstated but are real. And I kind of learned this in Argentina. I learned that the way that people make jokes is not the same in every culture. It was so difficult for, you know, some of the white missionaries, like, for us to keep up with some of these Argentines who would make these jokes and would kind of run circles around us because their way of speaking, their, like, these unstated things are so apparent in a culture.
Sure.
Things like the preference and the importance of time in a person's culture, the way a person learns in a culture, the respect they have for the elderly, which is something I mentioned as well. I think all of those things are not as apparent, but are very real.
No, I agree with that, but I actually do think, like, there's such diversity among that of Americans that ultimately to say, like, one culture, like, I'm a person, I always show up on time. Like, it actually is a problem.
You're better than me in that regard.
No, like, I have, like, a friend's events, like, you know, expected to show up 40 minutes late. I always show up on time, and I actually ask, like, what's the real time I should show up? Like, that's the kind of person I am. And they have the same friends who have the same cultural background as me, that, like, they show up always 40 minutes late after me, even to when you're supposed to be. So I think, like, to even put that as, like, an actual thing that, like, represents culture, I think is, like, a little bit of, not ultimately, like, I think that what generally makes an American is somebody who believes in our ideas of liberal democracy, as someone who believes in the right of other people to vote, and, like, that we collectively can make a decision.
Well, I mean, it's difficult. I think if you water it down to just, like, kind of those beliefs, if you are unable to think about kind of America as a people, as a nation, I mean, certainly the beliefs are part of it.
Yeah.
Don't at all disagree. But when you water it down to that, it's like, okay, so let's say you just have, let's say you have, like, a Japanese guy who's, like, in all respects Japanese, but, like, really believes these kind of cultural things. Like, he's just really pro-liberty, very Lockean or whatever. I don't think he's necessarily very American.
I think if you actually are in America and believe those same things, yeah, I would consider him American. I think an American as an identity is that. To where if you actually do believe in those ideals as an American, because I think the American ideal is actually different to like the British ideal, for example, like they don't have full free speech like we do in America.
And it has to be on American soil.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So even if, like, let's say Japan went through a huge cultural shift, they adopt an even more United States resembling constitution. Sure. They adopt all of these things. Let's even say they learn English.
See,
Are they America?
See, I don't even necessarily think it's the Constitution. I think it's more so.
Well, I would disagree with that. I think it is. The Constitution is definitely part of it.
Oh, our ideals shape the Constitution. That's my argument.
Okay.
For example,
right.
I like the Lincoln argument that like the Declaration of Independence was more important than the Constitution.
Okay.
But I think those ideals are uniquely American, and they were developed in America and how we define them.
If they existed in a foreign country, like what would stop that country from being American?
I would say at that point, there's no such thing as a unique ideal. So I think our unique ideal in America is not just.
It would no longer be unique.
No, I say that you can't just like have another country adopt the exact ideal of what another country stands for. I understand your argument that like because you're saying like it wouldn't be America because like there are different people, sure. But I think that discounts that individually all those members could come over to America and actually embrace our ideal, and yeah, they would totally be American. So I think if you just say en masse, one country changes, that's like kind of framing the conversation in a different way than I would actually think it would be more interesting to say like, could all those people individually come over to America, for example, and integrate into American society, and would we call those people American? Would you say that?
No, I don't think so. Like, I mean, that example of the Japanese, like this for me is a really poignant one. Because I think if you were to have 50 million Japanese people, like let's say go to, I don't know, wherever. They could go to Miami, they could go to
We don't
Chicago.
have much people in Wyoming.
Yeah, okay, Wyoming. Let's send them all to Wyoming.
Sure.
If 50 million, and Wyoming's a great example because there's hardly, I mean, even any Americans there. So let's send even 1 million Japanese people to Wyoming. All of them could adopt views about freedom. But don't you think that Wyoming would significantly change its cultural composition?
Yeah, it would. But I think that's like, my dad, for example, grew up in New York. Heavily Jewish and Italian community where he grew up. Like, I mean, even before that, it wasn't. Like, the Italians and Jews migrated over. With the Americans before, like, we would consider the Jews and Italians part of the American tradition at this point, right?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it depends really, like, what point of the immigration process we're comparing. Because immigration has differed very significantly.
Oh, 100%. But I'm saying, like, when we consider, like, what an American citizen is, I would consider, like, in the same way that we consider, like, the English Protestant person here of 1776 to be part of the American history, would you say that is true of people who immigrated in like, the early 20th century, like the Italian, Jewish, Irish descent?
I think they've become part of it. And this is, by the way, why when I talk about, like, this process of deportation, like, I'm not in favor of deporting, just everybody. People who have been here for, like, 30 years. That's going to be very difficult to do.
Sure.
And I'm not necessarily in favor of, like, prioritizing that. But I think it's like that argument allows for a self-perpetuating cycle of complete kind of erosion or erasure of the American identity with the argument that, well, they'll kind of just eventually become American. We already have some of these elements baked into the pie, so to speak.
Sure.
That doesn't mean we ought to just forever allow that cycle to continue.
Yeah.
Because crucial parts of the American identity do go changing all the way along. Certainly, Chinatowns are something that are unique. Well, not unique to New York, but they are a part of it.
Sure.
They are there, whether we like it or not. That doesn't mean that a Chinatown is the most American thing in the world.
See, yeah, but I would argue that us as a melting pot actually has contributed to our society in that way. Because those people have actually integrated in like support. Like I would say,
I don't think they have. I mean,
why not?
The idea of a Chinatown, the idea of a Little Italy, like rejects the presupposition that they have assimilated.
Oh.
The idea of a melting pot presupposes assimilation. If not, why use the term melting? Like they're melting, they're becoming one, they're becoming some kind of homogenous thing.
Sure.
However, the Little Italy has in its name the issue.
See, but then the issue is then, like, I would argue, what does it actually mean to be that, what is that homogenous thing that you want it to turn into? I think the homogenous pot that we're turning into is that our liberal democratic ideals. To me, it's sounding like...
But then you've reduced what it means to be an American to literally just the belief somebody holds.
Honestly, I think that's a little... No, I think... look, there's every argument has, like, a middle ground. There's no such thing as, like, I agree 100% with any issue. That is an element of it too. I'm not arguing that. But I am arguing that our primary belief in what it should be to be an American is
what you believe.
It's what you believe. And like our ideals. Because that actually shapes who we are as a person more so than anything else. Like we can argue.
I completely disagree. It's
Really,
like,
you disagree that our beliefs are what our most important aspect of who we are?
Certainly. I mean, I think they're important. Don't get me wrong. But I think where you come from, I think your family, I think your heritage.
But that shapes your beliefs.
Okay, well but then you're at a point where it's like, okay, well, I think that the beliefs are the most important.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm admitting that, you know, where people come from, their heritage, their family, where they grew up, all of that shapes their beliefs. I think that, well, maybe you can agree with me. I don't think people are maybe as plastic as you make them sound.
Oh, I'm not saying people are plastic at all. I actually think the fact that we can change, our ability to change and change our beliefs is what is uniquely American too. And the fact
wait.
Sorry,
we have to map this
Yeah,
out.
sorry, we're saying too much too lot. We're saying too many words too fast.
So our ability to change is one of the uniquely American things.
I think our ability to, honestly, I'm saying too many words too fast, and I kind of just blurted that out.
No, that's fine. Like I'm not gonna like stick you.
Yeah. So like, I generally believe that because our ideals, like for example, going back to the family argument, my beliefs as a person I know is shaped by my family.
Yes.
But I think that ultimately, like, my family didn't determine my beliefs in its entirely. True. My values came from so many different places, like across life. So when ultimately the determination of who I am as a person isn't my family, because like so many people come from like, you have people who are like good people, bad people, come from rich, poor, whatever. You know, that ultimately your beliefs are what ultimately determines what your moral character are and like many other aspects of you, what you want to be.
Yeah, I think like I just, and maybe this is like kind of a philosophical difference. Like to that point, I agree with what you're saying, but I can't believe that simultaneously with like this idea of like a blank slate. Mm-hmm. Like I don't think people are blank slates. I think, like you said, they are made up of so many different factors. And that means that when they come to the United States, they will carry all of those things with them. They will not suddenly be able to just like become American. I think your argument, what you just described, is exactly why I don't believe citizenship should just be handed out to anybody who's born here.
See, I'm not even, birthright citizenship, to be honest, like, I can understand the argument both ways on this one. I understand that, like, there's, like, legal loopholes you can get too many people in at once. Like, I get that, and I understand, but, like, I think ultimately our culture has adopted in a way that, like, actually has resounded to its benefit because we've accepted so many people in over time. And our view of that citizenship isn't necessarily, like, how long you've been here. It actually is the fact that we've accepted so many people. Okay. And I think that we should be accepting people on ideals because that's really the only way that we can actually assimilate so many different people in the broader cultural American experience.
Well, I disagree with that part. I mean, accepting more people makes the assimilation process more difficult.
Oh.
If you have millions of immigrants coming from Mexico and simultaneously, because we don't have a strong assimilative pressure right now in the United States. Maybe we have a soft one.
I disagree that we don't have a strong assimilative pressure.
What do you think? Do you think it's getting stronger or getting weaker?
I think
maybe that's a more important.
Probably. I think it literally depends on what point in history you're comparing it against.
Right now, language assimilation, has it historically been stronger or?
Oh, it's probably, it depends on what historically, but like compared to the early 20th century of like our mass immigration, like there were communities of Americans, like there are German speakers in, I remember like.
The Germans assimilated really well.
Oh, it depends on where, some of them. The early waves, there's different waves of German.
Maybe like the Amish.
Maybe, but like there was. I remember
the Germans assimilated much better than the Irish and the Italians.
Maybe I remember there was like pockets of communities that would actually speak their native languages for like a long time in America.
Like in Italy. Or like in Little Italy,
for example, like Yiddish.
And that's the issue.
Honestly, guess what? But they came in and ultimately like it worked out. So to say that like we need to cut immigration because like we have these communities that are speaking different languages now, but it did work out.
You don't think that creates kind of an issue of a dual allegiance to some extent?
No.
I mean, for example, like within the Italian community and within the Jewish community in the United States, I think there's absolutely like some kind of greater allegiance to the home country.
I think there's definitely an aspect of that. Don't get me wrong. I don't disagree.
They even call it the mother country.
I think the mother country. Okay, I think as someone who actually belongs to one of those communities, I think it's like a lot more of a unique experience. I think it's hard to actually put into words because like as a Jew, like I'm an American first. I believe in this country, I believe in our ideals, but at the same time I do find like cultural assimilation like similarity with the fact that like
if the United States and Israel were at war,
I'm an American. I'm an American.
Would you renounce like any kind of opportunity to return to Israel?
Yeah, I'm an American living here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, sure. And honestly,
I don't think that's universally the case.
Okay, as someone who like knows a lot of Jews, like that's like true for like 95% of people that I know.
I don't know if that would pan out. I think if the United States and Israel were in a conflict and you had to choose sides, I don't think 95% would choose to stay in America.
Most American Jews are like liberal and don't even like the current government in Israel.
there's a difference between not liking like Benjamin Netanyahu
Sure, but we're
and
getting
not siding
I know.
with Israel in a foreign conflict.
No, most people want. Okay, like, but we're getting a bit off topic.
Yes.
But like,
but I think the issue of allegiance is important.
sure, and I can understand like that perspective. I don't think it actually really is an allegiance to another foreign country. I really, like, as someone in the community, I think it's more so just like, hey, we have these small cultural ties, we have these smaller bubbles of cultural community, but we're Americans. Like, I really do feel like the vast majority of immigrants feel American.
I think the issue